it was just really mind-boggling how much we were holding it together, just like with sheer willpower, I think is the best way to put it.
I mean, sheer willpower can only get you so far. And I think that maybe that's what led you all to start looking around for how do you solve these problems in a more functional way. I'm kind of curious to just ask, what was maybe a timeline for your month-end reconciliation process before you had tools to help manage some of that?
So I started at Mark Cuban Companies December 16th of 2021. Many, I would say preponderance, I don't know, 75% had not been reconciled for 2020 as far as bank recs. So we had 27 bank accounts that had not even been added to the software for us to even be able to start tracking. So just the sheer volume, and it just cascades, right? If you miss one, you miss two, and then just builds up on top of itself. So really where we started was weeds, just a sheer forest of weeds. And that all that manual work, we couldn't go back and fix what hadn't happened yet.
And then as you were realizing, hey, there's cracks in this foundation, we're behind on reconciliation, we're late on certain payments, which is causing a mad scramble and a mad dash. My AP clerks are overwhelmed. We're dealing with all this tedious manual work. What were some of the things that made you kind of awaken to that reality and be like, we have to get this under control? Was it literally just the fact that it was impacting all of your team, or what was really the impetus for you? Was it all of these things?
I mean, for me personally, as a husband and a father, working 50 to 60-hour weeks continuously is not feasible. It hurts the psyche. The buzzword work-life balance. Well, we did not have that at all, right? Easily, we were working 60s every week, some weekends, and I was missing a big chunk of my kids' lives. So it was this, or we're going to find another place.
As a new father, I have a 20-month-old daughter. I can only resonate with that. I mean, holding my daughter for the first time, it really realigns your priorities. And so to find a solution that can help give you that freedom back so you can stay at a company that has treated you well and that you enjoy working at, but can give you tools in your tool belt to automate some of those processes so that it allows you to go spend that time with your family, to me, really resonates on a personal level. Does your family, have they noticed that change?
I think they have. I really do. Since, at the beginning, back in 21, 22, we were working 50s and 60s. All of 2024, I can report I've not worked a single hour of overtime, and neither has any of my staff. So there's the win right there.
That alone is it's the metric. That you say, hey, I don't have work any more overtime. That means that this implementation was a success.
Yes, exactly.
That's perfect. We did have a couple of pre-submitted questions, I think, surrounding challenges related more specifically to how you manage multiple entities. I think we've touched on some of those, but I was wondering if we could just maybe elaborate a little bit more on some of the process changes that you had to make in order to standardize processes across multiple entities, and how does that added layer of complexity in how Mark Cuban Companies as a business operates, how does that impact some of the challenges that you faced?
Sure. With 100 entities, you have 100 bank accounts, and entities should not pay for other entities' bills, and it's just the manual process of that is, well, who pays what, when, where. Where the processes showed up is actually during implementation, where we were able to say, these 5 companies are under, this umbrella of employees, so they need to see this and approve this, this, and this. Whereas like my accounting team, we all see, the whole umbrella. From a control perspective, I only want certain managers to see their stuff, right? Nobody really needs to see the foundation other than foundation management or approvers, and just having the built-in way. Bill allows you get this entity, and then to be able to have it all in one place, and yet it's all separate. And we're able to see across every entity, this entity has 4 bills, this has 30, this has 100, and we can see where in the chain things need to be approved, who's slowing us down. We can really start working on, well, why are their approval process slower than others? Maybe we can start reallocating their time or whatever. Really through that implementation, it really opened up a lot for our processes to really hammer down, and this is how we're going to do this.
It's interesting to me that you had been thinking about, your processes before you found a solution, but then really through that implementation process, it helped you really take another step back and evaluate what processes are going to work within the additional framework of this tool that we've hired to do some of this work for us. And it leads me into our next poll question, if we just maybe continue on here, which is talking about implementing financial automation tools. So this is for our audience. Which benefits of implementing financial automation tools is most intriguing to you? Is it saving time, saving money, security and preventing fraud, or happy employees? And maybe before Josh, you and I dive into some of the reasons, or answers to this question for your specific situation, we did get an audience question I would like us to touch on really quick. It's asking, do you have vendors and utility accounts directly submit invoices into the bill inbox? Or are they sending that to maybe a third inbox separately than that, and then you're submitting that to the inbox?
So we actually implemented a change through implementation. Before, we would receive everything to invoices at mcc.com for every entity. And then our original implementation was that would still happen, and then my clerks would divvy it up between the entities within Bill. We quickly learned that the vendors themselves would rather just send it to the end bill account. And since each bill inbox has a designated, I guess it's a URL, right, of investments or the foundation itself, Mark Cuban Foundation at bill dot whatever the end user URL for the email address is. And yes, we have, I would say approximately 90% of our invoices now come directly into bill from our vendors and utility providers.
Amazing. And so I'm assuming that means that there's less management, because it all is going straight into the inbox, and then you see the notifications when those new inbox items arrive. So that's like when an AP clerk logs in, I'm assuming here, so correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of their first action that they take. They go look at the inbox and say, okay, which of these inboxes do I need to go create bills for now?
Right. Yeah. And then at the console level, they can see, this one has 10 items in the inbox. This one has 100. Well, maybe I need to dive into that 100 and pare it down more. It's a lot. It's just well organized from the start. And they really have seen time savings. Looking at what the poll said, time savings is like literally 67 votes out of like 75. So, and that's really what we were looking for too, really time savings. But because of the time savings that we've received, all the other 3 items occurred. We have saved money, we have literally increased security and prevented fraud, and our employees are happier.